James's meal for today is pretty fancy, in spite of the fact that it includes hash brown things that we were given, but it has the tomatoes and stuff. It's not quite tabbouleh because I had the parsley and the mint and the tomatoes and onions and lime juice and stuff like that, but I did not have the cucumber, so it's missing the cucumber. And there's carrot sticks with hummus and some jalapenos and sour cream for that, and then this nice mixture here. And I'm going to talk about Granfa Grig Had a Pig a little bit, Attenborough and the Sea Dragon, the Chelsea Detective. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about assonance and rhyming. And one thing I found going through Granfa Grig is...
It rhymes, doesn't it?
It does, but there's also assonance where there should be a rhyme. So, which is quite common in when people write nursery rhymes.
Yeah,
so,
even old ones.
Yeah. So, I'm going to sing my song Opie Likes Oatmeal, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm just going to say one sentence that you're going to hear over and over, and if you want to sing it when you know that it should come up, then feel free. Opie likes oatmeal while I like pie. And I don't need to say it again. You remember it. And right when I said that, when I said it, your brain repeated, oh yeah, I know that, and it repeated the sentence. I don't need to repeat it again, because as soon as I said it once to you, you knew it. You remembered it. And that's very important, especially when you're writing things for children. You want them to remember it. You want them to feel like, oh, I know it. I'm so smart. I learned this so fast. It will help them keep learning. So it's a good thing. So why did that sentence that you now know, and you just said it again in your head, whether you said it out loud or not, you know it. Why in the world did you remember it so quickly? Well, because I planned it that way. I made you remember it that quickly. And no matter if you don't want to remember it or whatever, you're going to remember it. I planned it that way. So what I did is I have an assonance pair, and then so that's number one, and then number two, another assonance, and then number one again, assonance pair, number two assonance, three rhyme, two assonance, three rhyme. So it's that whole sentence is all matched up. So, and if you didn't recognize that when you heard it, even when you repeated it in your head, maybe you'll recognize it now. O-E-I-O-E, I. Do you recognize it now? That's what you heard. Your brain heard it, and instantly it remembered it. It would not let you forget it. So, here we go. And I should say that I wrote this song because what I want to do is write songs for children more than anything else. I mean, you may be looking at all my other poetry and going, oh, well, she can do this. Why would she want to write for children? Writing for children is actually most challenging and most interesting. That's why. And frankly, a lot of people just don't do it well. So that's what I want to do. But anyway, I'm in this song that I wrote. There's a different part that I have, the chorus. I've made it so that it refers back to Granfa Grig, and it's actually not this copy that I was introduced to. My ex, Silas, that was his favorite book when he was a kid, was Granfa Grig. And in that book that he had, the copy that he had, there was a story about a couple called the Twits, and there was this little rhyme that I included, and I don't even know if it's in that one. I didn't recognize it when I came across it. But in the back, this book actually ends really well because it ends with the Granfa Grig rhyme, and which it should. But they have it a little bit differently. I'll read it to you in the end of all of this, because it's a great book. But this edition, or the one that I was introduced to, which was I think better, the one that Silas showed me. So anyway, Opie likes oatmeal while I like pie. Chuck prefers chicken, his chick prefers cheese. Nina and Thomas like neither of these. They like tomatoes and mayo on rye. Opie likes oatmeal while I like pie. Larry likes layer cake high as the sky. Wanda wants wontons and Donnie wants fat. Pete prefers pizza wherever he's at, but likes his pie meatless, he's my kind of guy. Opie likes oatmeal while I like pie. Different folks got different pinions. Some like apples, some like inions. Different strokes for folks makes life complete. It means there's always something good to eat. Frank likes his french fries and fruit he can fry. Plantains he obtains for his fritters are fine, but greasy fried foods aren't a favorite of mine. If I ate like Frank, I'll be frank, I would die. Opie likes oatmeal while I like pie. Vegans like veggies, no word of a lie. Brock likes his broccoli, Lee likes his tea. Pauline has her coffee and neither's for me. I just want water that's bottled to buy. Opie likes oatmeal while I like pie. Different folks got different pinions. Some like apples, some like onions. Different strokes for folks makes life complete. It means there's always something good to eat. So I hope you liked my song. And I'm going to talk about the...
Before we move on,
Oh, sorry.
you're going to talk about the movies?
I was going to talk about Granfa Grig a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, talk about Granfa.
Okay. So, Granfa Grig, this one is quite a bit thicker than what I remember the edition Silas showed me being, but this one ends with Granfa Grig had a pig in a field of clover. Piggy died, Granfa cried, and all the fun was over. And in the edition that Silas showed me, I think it said Piggy died and Granfa cried since all the fun was over, and I think that's better, right? But anyway, another thing that I know, it's so cute,
pictures are awesome.
They are, yeah.
Each one was funny. This dog smiles like our dog Copper used to smile.
It's great.
And here this kid. What is happening here? I don't know. Anyway, it's hilarious. This little dormouse.
Yeah, I know. They're great. This person did a great job.
Yeah.
So this is compiled and illustrated by Wallace Tripp. So if you're interested in looking for this book,
if you're still alive, Wallace, boy, did you do the job.
Yeah, it's very, very good. So one thing, the poetry, I really want to change this. This is how poetry is written. The line ends, the new line starts, and it's a capital. Even though the second line is just a continuation of the first line. And it shouldn't be a capital. I hate that. I hate reading it, and honestly, I think everyone does. So it needs to change. It shouldn't. I know it's more difficult to write the poetry that way. When you're typing it into the computer, you can't just type return after your line, or it's just going to automatically put the next line in all caps, the next letter at the beginning of the... So you have to actually write out your whole sentence and then put the returns where they should be so that it makes sense that way. But it has to change. Don't do it this way. Just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean it should always be done this way. So I hope to change things.
What
that
it
way.
does is it breaks up the flow of thought when you're reading it to yourself. And what's worse is when you're reciting it, it encourages you to stop at the line. Granfa Grig had a pig in a field of clover. It encourages you to do that. Whereas you should say, Granfa Grig had a pig in a field of clover.
Mm-hmm. So it encourages people to read poetry poorly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great little rhyme. It shouldn't be read poorly. it's a great one. And there's a lot of great ones in here. So it's worth going through. And also try to stop using assonance when there should be a rhyme. It's just it's poor form.
You can have a whole poem where all the parallel things are assonance, and I'm fine with that. But if you're just mixing and matching, it's lazy. It's
just that. Like in mine, my rhymes are right there where they should be. And I have a lot of I have tons of both assonance and consonants. I have all sorts of things going on in the middles of the set, all throughout the whole thing. But my rhymes are right where they should be. So you got to be strict about these things with yourself. Because why cheat the reader? And you may think, oh, my reader's just a little kid. Nope. You don't cheat little kids. You give them quality stuff. So you go ahead now.
One thing I'm going to point out, this is not correcting Pauline, it's correcting the people who write about poetry in like the English so-called experts. Okay? So they'll say, you can even, they'll say, you could do, not strictly speaking consonants, the type of consonants, but it's not onomatopoeia. What is it when, excuse me, when you say Peter Piper, what is that? I'm kind of, where you line up the,
I don't know, I can't.
The consonants at the beginning. Anyway.
Not good at.
Yeah, I had
thinking on the spot.
I had to
tongue twister?
Go to the hospital today. So.
It's a tongue twister, Peter Piper.
At any rate, it's consonants at the beginning of a sentence. Alliteration, is that what it's called? And so there's a lot of consonants in there, but strictly speaking, Opie likes oatmeal. You could actually say oatmeal is a form, Opie likes oatmeal is a form of alliteration, and the alliteration would be, the word would be a form of alliteration. So they say, oh, like if there's no consonant at the beginning of a word, but it starts with a vowel, then you can treat it like alliteration. No, it, strictly speaking, is alliteration. In English, we don't know it. We don't notice it. Most don't know it. We say the glottal stop in front of vowels at the beginning of words. So we say, oh, he likes oatmeal. I'm exaggerating. We probably don't say it as toughly, as with as much emphasis as people using Semitic languages do, because you actually have to distinguish that, like Osama bin Laden. Well, that's not a good example, but if you say Al Jazeera, I suspect I'm thinking it doesn't start with ayin, it starts with a glottal stop. But ayin sounds a little bit, it's in the throat, they've got kind of sound like that, way deep. I'm not doing it properly. We generally transcribe it with a Q. There's all sorts of stuff happening in the throat, and you got to distinguish between them, and it means the difference between one word and another. It doesn't with us, but we still use it. So the reason why we don't notice it is because it's not important to us, but we still use it. In German, they'll actually have it in the middle of words. Usually when we have consonants in the middle of the words, we slime them together either with a W or a Y. Royal, right? Of course, the Y is in there. I'm trying to think of an example. Laos. Well, we tend to make a diphthong out of that, Laos. But it's kind of like a W there if you wanted to make two syllables out of it. Laos is how we transcribe it. But in German, they actually chuck, it's not terribly important for them, but they actually chuck in a glottal stop between a lot of things like that. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll put an equivalent of a Y glide, shall we say, or a W glide in between things like that. But sometimes it's absolutely important. Beaufsichtigen, is that the one? Yeah, Beaufsichtigen. So they got BE, which is a prefix in German, just like it is in English, like believe. It's used much more in German. But now I'm not sure if Beaufsichtigen actually has a glottal stop. I'm not an expert in German language. I studied it quite a bit at university. I think I took 4 layers of it. And I just this morning I finished up a fair number of German crossword puzzles. So that's finished. There were a few that I wasn't able to finish. That's the way it goes. But some of them are pretty challenging. Anyway, there you go. So strictly speaking, Opie Likes Oatmeal. The Opie and oatmeal is alliteration. It's a bad word for alliteration. They should have had correspondence of consonants or something like that, you know?
Well, it is too, but it's also an assonance pair.
What a correspondence? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You've chucked in there's no doubt that there's assonance there. Opie loves oatmeal. Because as I was saying, you can do alliteration with assonance and alliteration, or assonance and opie. The vowels don't have to correspond. Okay? And our ear actually kind of hears it, but we're hearing the glottal stop, but we don't recognize it. It's not important to us in terms of understanding meaning. Oh, hopefully I got that right. Hopefully I remember that from linguistics class. And yeah, I have taken linguistics at university. And you know what? I did pretty good at it. Okay.
Okay. So, if I was going to say, if you wrote, because I don't know whether it says compiled and illustrated by Wallace Tripp. I don't know if he wrote the rhymes or not, and I didn't see the different folks got different pinions, some like apples, some like inions, but I remember that from when Silas showed me the book.
Yeah.
So Wallace Tripp, if you wrote that line and you don't want me to sing the song, I will change my chorus for you.
There you go. Now you're going to give credit to him.
Yeah.
You know, if you ever
That
make
line
money
is
out of it,
not
she's
mine.
already given verbal credit.
That's why I wanted to show the book when I sung this, so that you could say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to try to find it. But I didn't see it in here, but I know that, like, I didn't just make it up. I remember that from when Silas showed me the book years and years ago. So
Now, Pauline doesn't have to make up rhymes like that.
no.
You know, so I was wondering.
I wouldn't make up a rhyme like that.
No.
I
I
just
don't
used
believe
it
in
because
that.
I made
Yeah.
this
I
song
know.
thinking of Silas
Right.
and thinking of his favorite book when he was a kid. So that's why I used that. But I could change it if
If Wallace Tripp doesn't like that, so.
or
Yeah,
whoever
we're
wrote
not
it.
here to rain on anyone's
No.
parade or anything like that, and we're not here to steal people's ideas. So
Not at all.
People should get credit. If we kind of miss something, then tell us about it. We are actually very nice and cooperative people.
And in fact, in this song, if I asked you right now, what do Nina and Thomas like? I bet you remember. Even though there's lots of people who like lots of different foods in here, I bet you would remember. And Nina and Thomas, well, that's a hard one because their food doesn't correspond sound-wise with their names, whereas many of them do. So.
The one I like this particularly is Frank likes French fries. I don't know if Pauline realizes this, but the Franks were a tribe that a Germanic tribe that conquered France. Probably a few other things as well. And France is actually named after a Germanic tribe, the Franks. So, and of course, Frank is named. Well, strictly speaking, it means free. So I don't know if it's related to the Germanic tribe, the Franks, but it means free. At any rate, the poor French people have rarely lived up to their name, or been allowed to live up to their name. What with the Sun Kings and Napoleons, and the Nazis taking over with the extensive collaboration really, of the right wing in France and stuff like that. And Charles de Gaulle was hardly a hero of democracy, and same thing with Jacques Chirac and a variety of different bozos who've coming from the right wing. I'm not a big fan of Mitterrand either. He was a social democrat. Anyway,
Okay, so I'm going to continue on. These are not kids' shows. Attenborough and the Sea Dragon. This is about fossil hunters. And I guess they found some kind of ichthyosaur or whatever you call them. And it's a new one.
Wow.
So yeah, they found a new one. And unfortunately, they haven't found the head yet, or at least they didn't when they made this. The guy, he was walking along the beach and he happened to find a couple flippers in rocks. And
bone flippers, right?
Yeah. Some fossils of flippers, and they were awesome. I mean, you could see the patterns. It was beautiful, right? But I mean, fossils often are very beautiful. So
you can see patterns of the skin, or what?
I don't know what it was. It was round. Like, I don't know if they were bones or what, but they were round and they were all the way along. And
because there are some things that were
very interesting. No, that's okay.
There are some things that where, for example, there's an Archaeopteryx or something like that, which I think pteryx kind of means feather. You see how it might be related to feather?
But they did find some skin on this
feather,
guy.
But it's old bird.
Fossilized
Yeah, exactly
skin.
right. That's
so they found a lot. Like, this was a good specimen. They just happened to not find the head, but they tried hard. You know, they got permission to dig in. I guess there's this coastline along England that there's a lot of fossils there. And I guess a lot of fossil hunters just go wandering along the coast and try to, because as the bank keeps getting eroded, then more keep falling down for them, right? And but they have to get permission to dig. So they found when the guy found the flippers, well, he had to get permission to dig to try to find. He knew where he found the flippers, and so he figured, okay, well, the rest of the guy might be right around there. You know, it just didn't fall off the whatever.
What
the
was
bank
it? What was the color of the rock that it was in? It doesn't look that colorful.
No.
It looks almost like there's chalky stuff along the coast of Dover. That would indicate that there was a lot.
I thought it was like shale or something, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Yep.
Anyway,
It doesn't look like what I was expecting. There's something, I think it's a resistant layer that's underneath the channel called the Great Red Sandstone. And I gather it's resistant. They dug the channel underneath it because the water theoretically wouldn't come in. But that stuff was laid down, you know, like, how do you get, you know, like, it was one huge disaster that laid it down. No.
so, anyway, they were thinking, well, this, like it was interesting watching them use their tools because they vibrate. They have like kind of little chisels that vibrate or whatever that get rid of the rock around it. And boy, it must be, well, meditative, I suppose, doing the work, trying to clean up so that people can actually see the fossils that are in the rock. But anyway, it'd take a while. And so that was interesting. And then like at one point he's showing the flippers and he's like, well, they're upside down. They should be this way, right, on the fossil of the rest of the body. And so they were figuring, well, the flippers got bit off as well as the head by a predator, and that's why they ended up like that. And I was thinking, well, surely they'd know, but maybe they just like cleaned off the wrong side of the rock, and that's why it seems like I don't know anything about fossil cleaning, so I'm probably wrong.
I think it's in the Great Red Sandstone. They'll find fish after fish, and they're all like, you know how people go when they're frightened and stuff like that? Animals do that too. And they're all back like this. They got all wiped out in one huge disaster. Wake up and smell the coffee, geologist. They're finally kind of waking up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like they were showing, my favorite fossil that I saw was one of these ichthyosaurs, I think it was. Anyway, that it was one of these sort of fish, I guess not fish, reptile, that lives in the water. And anyway, so it was one that was giving birth right when this happened. That's incredible.
It's not as though she died giving birth or in birth.
No. Like her and her baby were right in the fossil. Just, doop, you're done. Just like that. Interesting.
Yeah, here's even more interesting. Okay, you know how big whales are?
Yeah.
On one layer. You know, they're going, oh, these wee little layers. I found the whale kind of standing on its nose.
Wow.
Preserved.
Wow. Yeah. And so
Wake up
anyway,
and
I was
smell
thinking
the
about
coffee.
the head. Well, it's probably still in the bank. You know, it's just in another rock that you
could have got knocked off by a huge flood of water.
Who knows? I don't know what
So,
happened.
you know, like they're coming around finally. This is according to a geologist who's over 70 years old. He was about 70 when he announced in class. I guess he figured he could kind of do it. He was one of the ones who helped bring in continental drift stuff. And he was describing one of his professors, this was at University of Toronto, I think, who still, I believe it would be in the 70s, didn't believe in continental drift. So he's actually seen the change. There was a guy called Immanuel Velikovsky who brought in modern day catastrophism. And he was very unpopular. What was it he said? He said, eventually there's go to jail.
Hey, fella.
He's as mad as a geologist as I am. Anyway, Velikovsky made a mistake when it came to astronomy, but
he's just calling his friends. I put peanuts there. So he's like, hey, the peanuts are back. That's all he's saying. And now he's getting some.
He got it right about catastrophism. We don't live in the best of all possible worlds, as maybe Leibniz would have it, or some of these other idiots who came out of the so-called Enlightenment. Boy, that guy's a handsome
his friend over there is taking over the call, and he's eating.
Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. At any rate, so Velikovsky published in 50, and in 52, so his Worlds in Collision, he got that wrong about Venus galumphing through the solar system, causing all sorts of problems on Earth. 52, he put out, it wasn't Ages in Chaos, that was 55. 52, Earth in Upheaval. And most of that stuff is pretty unexceptionable. The world's been through some horrible disasters, so that's around 1950, and everyone's saying, oh, and then 1980, there was a guy, I think his name was Alvarez, and his son. Alvarez worked on the